The brand new Loronerol is here, a new Regalis Piece making its way to changing grade 4 and grade 3 strategies, and a brand new Overtrigger, it's making its way onto the battlefield. Let's talk about it.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and as seen from the intro, there's a lot to talk about, so let's jump straight into these new cards. And we started with the brand new Loronerol cards that are going to supercharge the deck. Which brings us to the brand new grade 1 Coiling Parade Shibanu. And Shibanu has the effect, although when it's used placed on the Regalis circle, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Loronerol's card name, cost, counter +1, look the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 grade 3 cards with Loronerol in their different original card names from among them, reveal them and put them into your hand and shuffle your deck. If you didn't reveal any cards, draw a card. So this is a great card that allows you to search for both new and old Loronerol, so it can filter your deck, and in the case you don't see a card, you draw a card. Which is great because it filters, it either pluses for a counter plus, which is decent at worst, but then also of course it searches out your persona right targets as well. So overall a pretty good card to have for the grade 1 lineup for Loronerol, and I can definitely see this card being played once we take a look at the grade 2 and grade 3 as we see the good synergies between them. Speaking of which, the brand new grade 2 that we got is Clear Stream Marilu. And Marilu has the effect, continues a Regalis circle. During your turn, if your order zone has 2 or more face down cards, this unit gets power plus 10k. So it's a 20k beater by turn 4, as that's the moment you have 2 cards face down in Loronerol. So that's decent, as keep in mind we can also restand it, so it's a pretty strong beater we can restand. But then on top of that, it also has the effect, although if your persona wrote this turn, this cost may be paid with Soul Blast 1. When this unit is placed on a Regalis circle, cost, put a card from your hand into the soul, search your deck for up to 1 song card, reveal it and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So this is good for multiple reasons. On surface level, this is your grade 3 song order searcher, which is going to be very important because that's your multi-attack enabler. And you want to have that every single turn, and this is a great way to get to that. But then on top of that, this card either in times can be a cycle card, as you put a card in the soul to draw a new card, but it still gives you soul, or in other times can be a +1 because you soul plus 1 to get a card to hand. But once we take a look at the grade 3, we can see putting cards to soul might actually be very beneficial to you, as it allows you to get more value in situations where you go second. And to make that more make sense, let's take a look at the brand new Loronerol. Because here we have the brand new Loronerol, Sing With Me Loronerol. And this Loronerol of course has a dress up mechanic, so it's regarded as heartfelt song Loronerol. But then her unique effects are, although when a unit is placed in the Vanguard circle, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 grade 3 or less unit card from among them, call to the Regalis circle and shuffle your deck. So it's a 3+1 that also filters, which is great because it can potentially get to the grade 2, that then gets you to the grade 3 song order, so you can immediately start churning everything up in one get-go. But it can also search for other important pieces for Vanguard units that allow you to do your thing, so this is a great way to just increase the consistency of your deck. But then on top of that, it also has the effect, although a Vanguard circle, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, choose up to 1 face-up song from your order zone and sing it. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, cost Soul Blast 1, grade 3 card with Loronerol's card name, until the end of battle, this unit gets drive +1 and your opponent cannot call sentinels from hand to the Guardian circle. So basically, when you go first, you can sing a song during the battle phase. So that means your grade 3 song order can be used to get multi-attack. Now granted, you won't get 5 attacks, but you will get 4 attacks. So that means by turn 3, you will always have 4 attacks. But in contrast to Loronerol, usually have 5 attacks by turn 4. So yes, of course, it's going to be weaker amount of offensive, but you get more offensive by turn 3, which is great because it makes the deck a lot faster and do more things. And of course, it has like a persona right effect, because if you persona right, you can soul blast to grade 3 to get the same type of advantage as the original Loronerol has, because it comes with a Sentinel Guard restrict by turn 4. And in this case, you can mimic that by soul blasting and you get then an extra drive check on top of that. But you can get away by using this effect also by turn 3 if you went second, because essentially if you have the grade 2, you can put an additional Loronerol from your hand into the soul, so you can pay the cost for this skill by turn 3 to have the full effect. And then you can say, well, how do I get to all those Loronerols? Of course, you're playing 7 in your main deck, so it's not that far-fetched to think about that. But we also have the grade 1 we just got revealed, which allows us to search for that card in the top 5. So we suddenly can see how we can enable this advantage engine very early on. So it can make the Loronerol deck a lot more aggressive right at the get-go, and that combined with the original Loronerol, all the song cards, and the original support, it might look like it's going to be a very powerful deck out of the get-go that can swing for games when you're not paying attention, and it can steal it right from under your nose, essentially. So this new Loronerol support looks pretty awesome, and me as a fan, I'm very excited about these reveals. I cannot wait to try these cards out to see how this will impact the Loronerol power level of the deck and how they can potentially be useful in the upcoming meta for Vanguard. Now, of course, we don't only have Lyrical Monasterio stuff, as we also got 2 new generic elemental cards, and we start off with probably the more controversial of the 2, which of course the brand new Overtrigger. And in this case, that's this Overtrigger, Fairy King of Ignition Valnut. And its additional effect is choose a stand rearguard. It gets auto rearguard circle once a turn. At the end of battle, this unit attacked, stand this unit until the end of turn. If a unit was not chosen, draw 1. Choose up to 1 card from your hand and call to the rearguard circle. So essentially, this card will generate 1 extra attack. Either you restand a unit on the field, or you're going to draw a card and then call a card on the field. So that means either when everything swings, you still get a card on top of a unit and you call something in the late game, and that can then interact with Persona Rite, of course. Or in the early game, when you didn't dedicate any cards to the field, you can still call something, which has an awesome application in the fact that if this happens on turn 1 or turn 2, you can call a grade 3 if you have a strong grade 3 that you want to have on the field. This is a way to cheat that potentially out. And in the late game, when you have a strong rearguard, it is to some extent mimicking the other Cray Elemental Overtrigger, which gives 2 100 million power pumps, as essentially you will swing twice with a unit that has 100 million power. But in scenarios where that 100 million power, where 1 unit could be interacted with, which doesn't apply to standard right now, but does apply to premium with things like the Nile Griffin and whatnot, it is significantly weaker because you can instantly lose all that value, which with the other Cray Elemental Overtrigger is spread across the board, which is a bit harder. Now, keep in mind, there are scenarios where this card can screw over you a bit, and that's the case where decks tend to rely on multi-attack with rearguards that happen after the Vanguard attack. So there are decks out there that swing with rearguards, they are either disappear or they rest, then you swing with the Vanguard, and at the end of battle, you replenish the board. If that's your strategy, this Overtrigger can screw you over a bit, because you don't have a stand trigger. Yes, you can call something from your hand, which is great, but if your Vanguard already did something like that, you're basically negating any value you could generate that way. So what's the point of doing that? Like, think of the Ghost deck, for example. They're gonna call probably on top of the deck, so by calling something from your hand, why do you want to do that, essentially? I don't know, but those are scenarios that can come up. And on top of that, if you have a strategy that leaves a card in the back row standing, but nothing stand in the front row, you have to choose that. So be very careful if you want to decide if this card is made for your deck or not, to think about your combos and your attack pattern and understand when you're going to drive check and what the status of your field is going to be like and what you're going to do after this Overtrigger resolves. Are you going to call something on over to a unit, so negating the value, or negating the value you could generate with your Vanguard? Or are there still standing units left on the field, but they're boosters, so you don't get the full value of this Overtrigger? Keep those factors in mind when deciding which Overtrigger is the right pick for your deck. Now, of course, I know the Overtrigger is a touchy subject, but try to keep things civil in the comment section down below, please. Now, moving forward, we have yet another generic card, as we have the second Regalis Piece card being revealed, which is one of the new Regalis Piece cards in Festival Collection, which is this Regalis Piece for Bidol Surrogate, which is a grade 3 once again. Now, its effect is search your deck or drop for up to a total of 2 grade 3 or 4 unit cards with different card names and reveal them. Call all revealed grade 3 cards to the rearguard circle and put all revealed grade 4 cards into your hand. If you search your deck, shuffle your deck. So essentially, this card does one of 2 things. Yes, there's a third one, but that third situation probably will never happen, because the things you can do with this card is either A, search 2 different grade 3s and call them to the Regalis circle, or B, search a grade 4, add it to your hand, and then grade 3 to the call to the field. Yes, you can search 2 different grade 4s, but I don't know in which deck that actually is something you want to do, so let's remove that from the equation. So let's talk about the simple one, the grade 4 application. This is essentially an upgrade to the grade 4 strategies. You want to have them in your hand too, so you can ride by turn 4, or with the prospect of the Emilia promo being a thing for all nations, this could be a great way to incorporate with that superior ride to make the deck more prominent and more consistent, as this is another copy essentially of your grade 4. And this is probably even better for Seraph Snow because it allows you to get to your Seraph Snow rewrites for your grade 4, for Pure Light on a more consistent basis. Now, in terms of calling grade 3s, this is essentially another way to get more consistent access to your main combo grade 3s. If your deck relies on one specific grade 3, this is essentially an extra additional copy. But if you rely on 2 grade 3s, this is even better because you get both of them on the field. And this is how I tend to see this card, as the other Regalis Piece we got so far. It's essentially an additional copy of your Persona Ride because it's activate Persona Rides. And in this case, I like to see this Regalis Piece card as a 5th copy or an additional copy of your main grade 3 rearguard unit or your grade 4s essentially. Yes, I know it's more than that because you call potentially an extra grade 3 to the field, but not all decks can abuse the maximum value of getting that additional grade 3 to the field. I know there are exceptions to this rule, like Magnolia for example, because they can get inlet to the field, which is a great rearguard beater, but not every deck can get like a maximum value of having 2 specific grade 3 units or a grade 4 with a very important grade 3 rearguard. Like Nirvana for example, it does not really want to do that because typically your grade 3s are overcharge unit and you don't want to call them as vanillas to the field. Now, of course, there are so many implications of this card, of insane combo plays you can do, like think of Bastion, I already mentioned Seraph Pure Light and Magnolia for example, and there are so many more things you can do, and that's only referring to standard. Like in premium there's even more crazy things you can do about it because those typically have wacky grade 3 rearguards that can be used, like maybe some type of superior ride engine or something else that relies on cards. This is a great way to abuse those strategies, and if I want to go into all detail, I can literally talk about for hours and hours and hours on end, so it's better to save that for specific deck strategies that can use that than to go into the details right here. Now, if you have a specific combo or an interaction or a crazy play this card might have, leave it in the comments down below. I'm very curious of what type of strategy you can come up with this card, as there are definitely the combinations and possibilities are endless with this card. Now, as for the final news that we got a reveal dump given to us as we see the final cards for the festival collection, which are going to be brand new vanilla triggers for every single nation. But we also see the reprints, the 9 reprints in the set, which are going to be reprints of the right line, excluding the grade 3, from the trial deck. So we see the reprints for Jajult, Youthberg, as well as Leonord. Interesting choice because these are probably just common reprints or something. They're not like SPs or frameware or anything. So I'm very curious on why they decided to do this, as I believe most of, if not all of the cards are not being played in the main deck. So I don't know what the advantage of having more copies of these trial deck ride lines in rotation. Now, as for the triggers, it's great to see this because triggers are actually kind of hard to get in Overdress, because unlike any other previous era of Vanguard, from V Premium all the way back to OG, we had like triggers in every single set. This is not the case for Overdress because Overdress only had triggers in the set in set 1, set 5 I believe, or so set 6 or something, and then every starter deck and trial deck, and of course a set that included the brand new version of effect triggers. And that's basically it. I don't count the reprints, the reissue version, because those are like a couple of copies per case. That doesn't really do anything for the overall market or marketplace. This is great to see because we're going to need triggers at some point for newer players or players that want to get into a new deck from a different nation. So it's great to see this being added as just an added bonus. And that also is basically everything that we have today. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below, as there's a lot of exciting stuff that we went over today, including the new Loronerol card, the new Overtrigger that can be a game changer for certain strategies, as having a stand trigger can be pretty impactful for certain decks, and of course the new Regalis Piece card that is probably the most potential topic in this video, as you can literally go over this card on hours and hours and hours and hours on end. Now keep in mind, it is a one-off, so it won't change decks completely, but as an added tidbit here at the end of the video, I think there is a possibility for this being like a potential engine to be thrown in decks. Like decks can play like a one-off of this card, and then 2 Great Freeze that are very useful, because keep in mind you can call them or search them from the drop zone, so there might be like an insane combo that is very good if you have 2 specific Great Freeze on the field, but because it's only if those 2 specific Great Freeze are on the field, then decks might not play them because it's very inconsistent. But thanks to this card, if you see this card, you can play that combo and it can be impactful, or it could be funny, or it could be crazy, or it could be very interesting to do, and it might be an inclusion in certain decks. So that might also be an application of this card. But that's, again, going into things that this card could do. So let me know in the comments down below if you have other interactions of this new Regalis Piece card. But with that said, I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/insider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, you can simply go to patreon.com/insider and become a patron today. But with that said, I've been Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one!